So, ladies, we're here kind of, impromptu, but we had a conversation yesterday. Well, let me start by saying that you two have been amazing walking for the campaign. I feel like I have the dream team. There's one person missing, which I'm sad she's not here.
We love her.
I know. But it dawned on me yesterday while we were walking for my campaign. And, I'm running for state assembly in District 25, Nevada State Assembly. And really starting to understand while we knock on Hispanic doors what the Latino voters really want and how the young vote, as you two are, the young Latino vote, how different you are. And I wanted to just give you guys some space to talk about that because I think it could be impactful for the community, for the U.S., and for many other young people out there that might be undecided. And as you know, we never usually talk about the presidential race because I personally think it's more important to talk about local and state politics.
Yes.
But I want to give you that space. But let's start with introductions. Just, tell us all how old you are and your backgrounds.
All right. Do I go first?
Okay, I'll go first. My name's Michelle. I'm 19. I am in college, and my major is pre-nursing. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, and my parents are from Mexico, Michoacan.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful. My name is Danny. I go Daniela or Danny, so either one. And I'm 22. I just graduated in May, and I have 2 degrees, so journalism, political science, so I like politics. And then my parents both immigrated from Nicaragua, so that's like my Latina side.
Yeah.
I love it, and I'm very grateful that they came here, and so just trying to make them proud. So yeah.
So why did you both decide to get involved in my campaign? We'll start with that.
Yeah. I think for me it was really important. I actually got this question asked a lot by people my age because they're like, yeah, you could be working at a PR agency, Yeah, maybe doing content creation or stuff like that. But I think it gets very frustrating for us young people when we consecutively keep voting for people and there's just no change. And it's also hard to vote for someone, I sometimes feel when they're not representing a correct group. Yes. And I feel in your case, so fun fact, the way that I met Diana actually was through one of my classes, and we had to help and kind of go in and see how candidates work and how it works. But I really wanted to help her out and just wanted to get closer to her because honestly, from the bat, you just had so much transparency, honesty, and kindness. And I know that you doing this is solely for the purpose of wanting to genuinely help people. I see your kindness and just how just giving you are towards everybody. And I think that I wouldn't, right? This is, a lot of people don't understand this. This is a very difficult election year. I mean, it's really hard. It's hard to have those conversations with your neighbors, your friends. But I didn't care. I was she's actually here to help. And that is somebody that I would back up is I just want there to be a candidate that's genuine and is actually going to do what they set out, to want to do. I think it's hard for people to continuously want to vote and not get voter fatigue and be I'm done. There's just no point. So that's really the reason I wanted to get involved. But I think if it wasn't you, I might just be in the same category as everybody else, maybe taking a little bit of a backseat.
Yeah. No, yeah, I totally agree with Danny. I actually had this same question come up at a local grocery store a couple days ago, and I wasn't expecting it at all. So, how to get in the groove. But, I just really wanted to give Deanna a hand. I've been babysitting for her. And it's been coming up with the walking, the canvassing, and I just wanted to get involved. Just genuinely, just wanted to get involved.
So what did the grocery store person ask you?
He asked me, why are you supporting, or what are you doing?
Right.
He was just what are you doing? Why are you doing this? He actually asked me if I was an activist. In Spanish.
Wow.
Yeah, he was like, eres activista. And I was well, no, I'm just handing out these flyers, that there's an event she's having. Yeah. We want to inform the people. But yeah, he was just being very pushy with...
right. What did you feel he was trying to get at?
He kind of wanted me to say that I was a Republican. He was he was saying, okay, so you're helping her, you're supporting her, so that means you're a Republican. And I was just trying to explain to him like what this event was for. It was to inform the people, not to make them lean towards a certain side. But I agree with Danny.
Right.
I feel like I want to hop in for 2 seconds really quick and just say that there's no like normalization of being able to like vote for both parties on a ballot, right? It's so heated. It's
now,
like,
because
now,
that's
right?
not how it used to be.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people that I talk to like always tell me, like, you never used to be like this. But I come down on like this thought, right? Like, take the person out, right? Look at like what they're actually like, what they stand for, right? And so maybe for the presidential election, you might vote for a Democrat or you might vote Republican. But then when it comes to like your state and like local, that like genuinely is like affecting you every day. And so I think in that area, it's like, it's okay. It's normal. And I feel like we shouldn't push people so much to be like, oh my God, you voted for that person, so then you're not loyal to the party, right?
So would you say, or what do you think this has been going on this whole election cycle? Not just this race, like my race, but just in general, because obviously your interaction with the grocery store person was more about the big race, right? And so what did that make you feel about the parties?
That kind of, he did also bring up, and it's also came up like at other events, that the person is more important than the party. And I was like, I totally agree with you. Like, person is more important than the party. You really got to look at that, the candidates' policies and whatnot. But I agree with that. And I know, like, we've talked about that several times, and I stand with the person over the party.
Yeah.
Did you feel any judgment because he might have thought you were a Republican?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was.
But then I think it's hard because at the same time, it's like you should respect, right? Like everybody has their own beliefs and values. And I always tell Diana as we always talk, like, I 100% respect where everybody is. That is your choice. But I think something that I haven't liked seeing you in this race and everything is that the presidential election is seen almost like, okay, if you're Republican, then you're like this extreme. Like, there's no in the middle, even though that's one of the things I love about you the most is like you're moderate. You're able to see from both sides and just trying to bring that middle ground, which a lot of young people I know really, really want that. I just think it's difficult in that case, right? Yeah. Being associated immediately, like with somebody as like, a controversial figure, even though when you might not believe the same things that said candidate also believes in. Right. So I think it's difficult. It's hard because you're your own person. This is your own race. And you might not believe necessarily with all things, that another candidate is. But it gets put on to you. Right. And it's the same thing for the other side of the party, too.
And we don't have to talk about parties or your party affiliation. Yeah. I don't think it's ever really anything that's come up even in our personal conversations. But like speaking generally about your age group, because both of you are first-time voters, correct?
This will be my second.
This is my first,
So this is your first. So as young voters, then first time, second time, where do you see the two parties, and, how do you feel about each one of the parties?
Yeah.
I feel like there's this divided line with our age group, but like male and female. Like you definitely see a difference with who like the males will lean towards and who females will. But it's very difficult. Like it's been very difficult, especially on social media.
I will say social media definitely plays a huge part. I mean, like I'll wake up one day and I think I've decided who I'm going to vote for and then put my phone down. Then I wake up the next day and the thread's completely like switched. It's influenced me to completely vote a different way. And so I think it's really hard. Another big takeaway that I will say is that being a woman and being Latina, I feel like there's still not why I have such a difficult time picking is because I feel like there's not one candidate, not one party that like represents us, right? But then yet at the end of the day, we have the most pressure, right? I see that we are the targeted group.
Yes.
Right.
Women, right?
So you'd say women your age? Like,
Yeah. And it honestly sometimes breaks my heart because I feel like it's so much pressure. It's like, you guys are going to decide who wins, right? But then it's like, there's so many things that get thrown at us, and then there's so much information, so you're almost so confused. You're like, am I making the right decision? Am I going against myself?
Right.
Or in this case, like I always think, like, am I going against like being Latina, because I'm really proud of that, and I'm proud of being a woman too. So that I think is so hard, especially with like TikTok and Instagram, right? Or seeing that somebody else didn't vote, and then you're like, oh, who did that person vote for, right? And so I just don't think that there's yet a space for that, but yet we get put as voters in, as a woman and as somebody, you know, of that's Latina, so much pressure. It's like your voice matters the most, but yet we don't have any representation, right?
What about social media do you think is working for you, especially like specifically as, you know, a young female?
You get to see so many different perspectives. I know our schools, like Instagram, they post so many like, what is it,
Like stories?
Yeah, like stories and whatnot. And then like same with TikTok. I don't really see too much on Instagram, but TikTok is what has a really huge influence, and because you see so many different perspectives. And then, but yeah, it's true, like at one point you think you think you're set, and then at another point it's you're
or
just
like a different video will come up and stuff. And so I think one beautiful thing about social media that I really love for women is that we really do get a voice. Like, the power to influence is there. And I feel like we can like hear different perspectives. And now more than ever, people are like more educated on like a woman, right? And our rights and what it's like to be a woman. And that does make me really happy. I feel like there's like a better community, I would say, on TikTok. And even men, you know, I feel like they're more like sympathetic towards women now because there's more things to be educated on. And
there's still a ways to go.
You
can't use my husband as a barometer.
James is educated, and we love that for him. But I do think that slowly but surely we're getting there, and I'm happy because you know, women, like we go through a lot, you know.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
And I just think that we've came so far. I don't think that it's anybody's like right to put that down or take that away. And I love that about you the most, is that you really do empower us. Like even us, like we're young, and you always, I mean, Diana's done the sweetest job. Like, like you really mentored me and given me an opportunity.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's my leadership style. I think when I think of how I like to lead, it's, you know, creating the space and the path for the next generation. And you guys are the next generation.
And JJ too. Like, he's so kind to other girls and his teachers. And I think that ultimately does come down to like
communication. Right? Between all of us. But I kind of wanted to go back to the social media side of things, because there's, you know, obviously the federal races, and I kind of asked the question, but I think we kind of went around it about what do you think is working, what's not working from a social media perspective. How are you being spoken to as young voters?
So I will say, Gen Z, we see right through it. I mean, that's one thing about our generation. We will call out. We will cancel culture is huge. You know? And
so you're behind the cancel culture.
Yeah, no. But if you're on a PR team, it's probably not where you want to end up. But I will say that we just really want transparency. We already know a lot of, I think what it comes down to, a lot of people are studying media right now. So we know what like an interview that's like set up is going to look like. We just want transparency, and we want people in politics to be real, to actually care about us, to be able to connect. And I think it's, you know, I see some campaigns and stuff like being ran or local at state, you know, everything. And I just think that they don't have that connection, right? Because for them, it's like about the winning. But for us voters, it's just like, okay, if I vote for you, will you actually do the change? So I think through social media, you can create that kind of parasocial relationship and really start to form that trust.
Right.
But it has to be genuine, because I don't think that you can fake being genuine like through a camera.
Right.
People can see through it. That's why I love TikToks. You can just get on there and you're like, this is what's going on. People really like to see that authenticness. They want people just to be human.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day. I mean, I don't know if you like think about the people that are like influencing, especially like on the selection. You can see like what's like filtered and what's just done, you know, a more like organic state.
Right.
But I think that's important too. And talking to people, like talking to your audience, not just sending someone from a team to like formulate a campaign. The campaign might be beautiful, but I don't think that it's like going to resonate with your voters.
Well, what do you think, Michelle?
I think
You're a little quiet there.
It's hard. I mean, like can you repeat what the question was?
I was just asking about how social media is being utilized from a political landscape. And what is working? What are you liking? What are you not liking? Whether it's the federal races or the state and local races.
Yeah. Definitely the ads, you see them a lot on social media, and it's very like impactful. Again, with the leaning towards or like deciding what side you want to lead on. It's very difficult when all that like and engagement. Once you engage with something, you just see it over and over and over.
Thrown on.
Like that.
That's the AI.
The engaging. What's the? I don't know
You
the
said
name
the
for
attack
it.
ads. We talked about this.
Yeah.
We're tired. Like I don't want to go anymore on TikTok. We were talking about this in the car. It's just ad after ad after ad. That it's like exhausting.
Yeah, it's that cycle. If you engage with it, it's just gonna keep coming.
So I think for you, Dani, this is being your second election. Like, what's different this time around? You know?
I would say my first one, I genuinely just think I was, to be completely honest, was really excited to vote, right? Because I'm 18. I'm like, oh, I can vote. This one, I think I'm definitely voting for what my future is going to look like in 4 years. Because I'm 22 right now. I'll be 26. I eventually want to own my own home. I'm going to be working like my first like big job. I just graduated. Hopefully. And so I think that now the way that I'm voting is very much for the future. And the first time I think I voted, I just kind of, again, I was just excited to vote. I was excited to get my voice in there. But I think that now I'm voting not as a strategical approach, but more just like, okay, what do I think this candidate could provide me in 4 years? And can they live up to what they're saying that they're going to do?
Do you think that it has a party attached to it? And there's no right or wrong answer, by the way.
I would say yes and no. I would say that the first time I voted, I voted like pretty much like, okay, I think that this candidate's good. I didn't really vote based on the party, right? Because I didn't want to get caught up in that. I will say I do think it's difficult to revote for a certain party or candidate of that sort when you feel like you were let down, right? Because then it's like, okay, I'm trusting you again, hopefully, like, you know?
Right.
So that plays a part, right, too. But I will say a lot of what I feel right now of confusion of this election is other people influencing. And I think that's something to remember is when you go vote, that's your own voice. And all of what everybody else is influencing you just comes down to you in that box, or if you're at home, and you making that decision. That's private and that's your right. And I think people forget that.
They do forget that. Yeah. Do you feel a pressure that is like a party?
I do, yeah. Like seeing my friends vote, and I haven't voted yet just because I'm not sure yet. Right. And it's so much pressure when your peers are like, okay, yeah, I voted this. And I'm just like, oh, okay. But like Dani said, she brought up that conversation where she's voting for the future. And in 4 years from now, she's going to be 26.
I know.
And that's a perspective that I hadn't seen yet. And that just blew me away. I was like, whoa, yeah, like in 4 years, I'm going to be, 23?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to be like graduating college, like... And it's that perspective I hadn't seen. So then I was just like, wait, like, let me rethink everything. Right. But yeah, I definitely feel so much pressure, especially from my parents as well.
Yeah.
Like
what kind of pressure from your parents?
Like what? Because obviously my parents have different values and beliefs, and then they're like on me, or like when they ask me like, oh, who are you gonna vote? Same thing with my little siblings. Like they don't really know what's going on, but they're like, so who are you gonna vote for? But it truly isn't that easy.
No.
It's not as easy as just like picking.
Right.
Then that's kind of like what they make it see.
Yeah, and I think there's always that like negative backlash on like either side. Like, oh, you voted for that person, right? Your vote, your beliefs, and your mindset are not always going to align with everybody. Right. So I just think it's important that like people remember like that is your right at the end of the day. That's your right to vote. And I always say when people try to ask me, or like they're like, who are you voting for? I'm like, you know what? I don't know. Like that's maybe something I want to keep personal or private to me. But I respect. At the end of the day, I will always respect everybody because they have the same right, you know?
So all of us, and I think as you get older, there'll be one or two elections that, especially when you're younger and you can't vote, that kind of leave a mark. Yes. And so for me, it was Reagan's election, and I was really, really young. And so it's like, and when I think of like the kind of candidate I want to be, or not candidate, actual politician, I think about Reagan. I think about locally Jill Tolles, who was the former assemblywoman in my district. So can you remember a time when you were younger and you couldn't vote, an election or a figure that impacted you?
I have two in mind. Obama in 2008. I don't know what it was about this man, his like jolly spirit, and I love that as a kid. I'm a kid, right? So it's like that's going to appeal to you. I think that's something to take away from him, right? Is like being more like transparent and having that kind of kindness. That's what I always associated him with. And then I would say the 2016, just because it was like, that was the first time my eyes were kind of open to see like how polarizing things were getting. But I would say the Obama one, something I take away as a kid is that it was very moderate from what I remember. I mean, I was really young, so probably my perspectives changed, but I didn't feel like it was. I remember on our street, somebody said that they were voting for McCain. I think that's who was up against him that year. Somebody said Obama, and they shook hands, and they were like, that's great, you know? Right. And it was just kind of like, I'm even happy that everybody's voting. I'm just happy that people are getting out there and getting their voice. So that's what I took away from that one, but I'm trying to think anything else. I'll let you.
I definitely remember third grade. I think, or it was third or second grade. I had the same teacher for second and third, so I get like confused. I think it was second, 12 or 16?
2012, probably.
I think it was 2012. Right. It was, I believe it was Obama and one of the Kennedys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no. Who
was it?
Was it Mitt Romney?
I don't.
Was.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't. Yeah.
I'm like trying to backtrack.
And I remember, like we were going through with our teacher, like what voting is and what like the presidents do and whatnot. And she put up like a fake poll, and she had us vote.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was an experience, and I still remember to this day. And it's definitely coming back now that I will be able to vote. Right. She got all of us, how old are we, like in second grade? Like 9, 8? 8? Yeah.
Probably 7, 8. Yeah.
7, 8. So it was hard, like when you were right there in that little box and you were filling out your vote.
Did you feel any like pressure?
I did feel. I felt so much pressure.
How are they voting?
Yeah, and it's
your parents.
And but I mean, it was a fake, like just fun thing. Right. But then I felt pressure. I remember myself like being like a little girl. I felt pressured. I was like, well, I wonder who like my friends are voting for.
So you'd mentioned something about how when Daniela brought up, the perspective of in 4 years she's going to be buying a house and kind of going into the second part of or the next chapter of her life.
Yes.
How were you thinking about voting before you heard that perspective? Like, what was your thought process on voting?
Definitely, I thought about like myself and like my parents. My parents are immigrants. They still can't vote. But I was thinking about myself and like my peers, those around me, my education. But that future perspective was the one I hadn't thought about yet.
Which is the beauty of, talking and just being able to have these conversations without talking about parties, right? Or, you're bad if you, want to vote one way or the other. So, which is why I wanted to do this as well. But without telling me your party, do you know your affiliation? And if it's a no, I'm going to backtrack again.
Yeah, okay.
There is no right or wrong answer here.
Okay.
Because I'm going to give you guys some stats that I pulled up from Unidos US, which is a lot of research done on young Latinos.
Yeah.
And, kind of where we are. And it might not shock you, honestly. It's a lot of what you're saying, but I don't think anyone's come out and actually said.
Okay.
The stats. I was going to say, at the moment, I don't. Only because I'm just trying to find my voice, and I'm really trying to figure out where I feel most represented. If that means that I vote I vote one person here and one person the other, I'm completely okay with that. And that just shifts back to my perspective of voting based off what that person can provide you, what they're going to provide in 4 years. So that's kind of where I'm at.
And transparency, you'd mentioned that.
But there's definitely that push to kind of put you in one or the other, for sure.
Yeah, when I was registering to vote, I registered pretty late, and I got that question where it says nonpartisan, Democrat or Republican, and I was like I don't know, I don't know what to put. I knew if I put unpartisan, I would get a whole bunch of love.
That's true.
But
most people don't know that, but we know that.
Yeah. But that's what I ended up marking, just because I wasn't sure, and I'm still I'm not sure.
Right.
And it's so hard. I definitely feel the pressure now that the election. I mean, we're a couple days away. Yeah.
Do you feel pressure to automatically be part of the Democratic Party because you're Latina?
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you feel any kind of bullying or shame if there's even a thought that you might be a Republican?
100%.
Yes.
And I think that's a conversation that's quite difficult to have. But I think what sometimes upsets me is that we get pounded upon so much. Your vote matters, your vote matters. But then it's what do you do? What do you do for the Latinos,
Right.
the community?
Right.
Right. I think it's different, right? If you're yes, 100%, I want to help you, and then you do the help, right? Then it's okay, you completed what you set out to do. I think it's just so hard because then you feel, right, from your parents.
Oh, yeah.
That if you're not a Democrat, or am I doing a disjustice to my own people?
Right.
Yeah.
Or am I turning my back on them? And it's hard because you grow up with that culture, and that's a part of yourself that you're not, trying to shame or put down. It's difficult to know who's always in the Latino or people of color or women's best interest. Are you just trying to get a vote, or are you actually trying to help?
Right.
That's, I think, difficult. But then if you try to challenge, right, or say something else, then you're kind of put in a box, or you're shamed.
Yeah.
It's hard.
So you know that this election, the Latino vote, will be very decisive.
Yes.
On all fronts.
Yes.
But especially at the top of the ticket, but also probably in my race as well. But I have some stats here which I thought were interesting for Nevada. So the presidential margin of victory in 2020 in Nevada was 2.4% with the Latino vote. The Latino share of votes cast in 2020 in Nevada was 17.69%. Latinos eligible but unregistered to vote in November of 2022 was 218,000 per Unidos US. And then the expected Latino first-time presidential voters in 2024 in Nevada is 19% Hispanic.
Oh,
Do you feel, with this information, that the top of the ticket, the presidential race, has done a good job talking to Latino voters?
I would say not really.
No.
And I'm not talking about I'm either one, whichever one.
Through this experience, I was actually writing about this the other day. Diana has done a great job connecting us with the Latinos. And you've been out there. We've been talking, knocking on people's door, asking them, what do you need? We're here for you. I mean, we've been out there like a lot, and I haven't really seen many people come and do the same thing, right? But then it's like their vote matters the most. So then why wouldn't you want to help, right? And then I think it's difficult when you're in that case because it's like a lot of it comes down to, I mean, I voted in the last election. These ballots are confusing, right? Sitting down, helping those groups, explaining to them, like, if you vote this way, this is going to help you in this, right? Not necessarily swaying them to vote a certain way, but giving them a pro and con on each thing.
Right. Which is what we're doing tonight.
Yeah, that's what we're doing tonight. I'm so happy about that. But I think it's difficult. The language on the ballots get confusing, right? Not everybody, people forget this, not everybody has time. I mean, we're talking about families, they work all day. And then you're not going to come home and research politicians, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
well,
you know,
or the ballot initiatives because they're confusing.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
We had to do a lot of research on them to kind of try to get both sides.
Yeah, we talked about this briefly. I feel like every election, it is like maybe 4 days, 5 days, like a week out. And it's like, then all of a sudden, everybody really cares. Everybody's like trying to target, you know, Latinos and women and all this, you know, and it's like it's the last minute, right? But it's like you weren't there, right? Months, a year prior to this election,
right?
And I think people want to feel like cared for,
right? And it's more than just language,
right? Yeah, policies, explaining that to people. Before I studied political science, like I didn't know anything, right? Like, I was like, I don't know what these like terms are and names. So I went, obviously that was one of my degrees. So I can imagine somebody that's like completely, you know, it's just, maybe that's just a field that they didn't want to go into.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but you know.
I mean, I was never into politics until this election.
Yeah.
Because I realized like the importance that this was going to have for us in a couple years. And, you know, I opened my ballot and I'm like, what is this? Like nothing, I was not expecting like what I saw. It was like, there's so many words. Like, do I have to read all this?
What envelope do I put the ballot?
Like, what do I do?
But this is valid, right?
Yeah. And like, I mean, I was reading those questions and I was like, how? Like, I mean, my first language was Spanish, but I'm fluent in my English. But I was like, what? Like someone that doesn't really get the language, like, this must be so confusing. Right. I mean, I was confused.
But it's not even like, oh, it's English versus Spanish. It's the language and how it's written.
Yeah,
right.
So confusing. Like, those questions, I'm like, yes, no, and
Yeah, like if approved, like what? And if rejected, like what's going to happen?
And a lot of people don't know that 5 of those ballot initiatives go directly into law, right?
Yes.
Which
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that prior to you explaining that to me. Yeah. And a lot of my friends that haven't voted yet, I was like, if you guys like want to have a night where we like all sit down and like talk about that, you know? And I think it's important. It's not just like you're trying to sway what way. Again, goes back to the same thing. You have the right to do whatever you want to do.
It's education.
But it's just educating you on like, okay, what is the question actually asking you? And then what are the 2 alternatives to if you say yes or no?
Right. What are sometimes the way I like to say it is the unintended consequences, right?
Okay.
Right.
Of either a yes or a no, but especially the ones that are becoming law.
Right.
Like what, you know, can we expect or what challenges can arise from that. So, and again, it's everyone's decision whichever way, and they can vote whichever way they want.
Right.
But the people should know how they're voting.
And know what they're voting for.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Because they just throw you those questions. And we're also Nevada, so I feel like we're in a swing state, right? And so elections here, it's like everybody's going to come to the state and really want to sway you.
So did you hear that at UNR, right? Because you just graduated and you're still there, that they're providing mental health resources the day after the election. Tell me a little bit about like what you think.
Yeah, Adriana and I, she's not here today, but we got an email. I think it's like ASUN that runs it. But we got an email that says like if you are feeling any distress or like just any kind of stress, or if you're feeling any kind of way towards the election, I think even just now they're already offering all those resources. But you know, it's so amazing that UNR does this, because even like like, why don't they have this for little kids? Like my little brother,
Exactly.
8 years old, he doesn't know what's going on, but he knows.
Stress.
Like,
It's like
feels
over everybody.
yeah. And it's this email. Everyone got it. It's reposted all over social media. They're offering therapy sessions for the election.
Right.
And, you know, everyone's welcome.
Do you think you'll use it?
I might just go check it out.
Like, what would be, you know, because it's sometimes it's difficult,
Yeah.
especially in our culture,
Oh,
right,
yeah.
to kind of overcome those barriers of mental health being
Yeah.
good for us. But what would keep you from doing it?
I don't know. I don't think there's anything keeping me from doing it. Maybe just I've never had therapy. Maybe just like the setting. Like, I don't know if it's a group setting or like a one-on-one. And like being in a group would definitely make me feel a little more, I don't know, like pressured.
Right. And you feel like those who might judge you. It always
Yeah.
comes down to judgment.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
belonging.
And I think that's why people are feeling like just so much stress. I always say like my therapy sessions with my dad, because every night we turn on the TV and then we're like watching the news and what's going on in politics, and he's a big reason I even like thought about you know getting into it. But he always reminds me, he's like, no stress, you know, take in the information, kind of try to dissect it.
That's amazing.
You know,
so you
and-
talk about politics at home.
Yes, me and my dad do a lot. And
Do you talk about politics? at
Not
home?
really.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
It comes up here and there, but it's not really talked
Right.
about.
And that's okay. It's
Yeah.
just the difference of the homes and
Yeah.
how you do it.
Yeah. And
But I want to
also-
go back to mental health
Yes.
because
Yes.
obviously you know it's super, super important to me. And I think both of you know my personal experience with my 9-year-old.
Yes.
And, you know, when I saw that UNR was doing that, I was actually super proud of them. I think
Yeah.
kudos to UNR for
Yes.
really
That's
understanding that there is a big pressure on your age group
Oh, yeah.
in
Yes.
this election, and that no matter who wins, it's just heavy on everyone.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
And so with my son and what he went through in his class and what all of these young people are feeling like, you know, 9-10-year-olds, there should have been, and hopefully we can do something to have the school district
Right.
provide some sort of mental health, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
resources
It can
or
get
awareness for
confusing.
them.
Yeah,
for
it
them.
gets confusing.
Right.
Yeah, but it's very difficult. What you said about mental health in like a Latino
yeah.
setting, where they're like they don't believe,
Right?
Yes.
and that
Yeah, it's like
they don't
not
believe in
mental
like,
health.
Like, what do they say? I
depression.
know what they say.
Like
but what do
they're
you
like,
hear?
oh, eso no es real. Like
Yeah.
you just need to like get out, or like
Yeah.
I don't know, like mental health, anxiety, depression.
Depression,
All of those
not
things are
real.
non-existent
Right.
to
But usually,
Latino.
it usually comes along with one thing of like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm trying to see if you've heard what I've heard.
What is it?
You know, like what is it usually followed by, like by our parents when they say, you know, it doesn't
Oh, it's the phone. Is it that?
That
The phone.
too.
Mine's
Okay.
always, it's the phone, or
how can you get help?
how can yeah.
What do they say will help instead normally?
My
pongas a
always
limpiar.
is
I
to
don't know.
eat.
To eat?
Mine's to eat and go and take a nap and then
That's
take a
our
shower.
culture.
you know?
Really?
I guess I would hear a lot like
to
ponlo en las
pray.
manos de Dios.
Oh yes. Okay. Yeah.
That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
say. My
Yeah.
grandma, like, she doesn't. I love you if you're listening. But she's always like, just get closer to God.
Yeah.
pray to
Right.
God, which another difficult thing, right?
Right.
That plays part, right, in that culture.
Oh, yeah.
And religion.
Which, to be clear, like I think,
Yeah.
and I do believe in God.
Yes.
Like, yes, I
Yes.
think it's great to do that. But
Yes.
as a mental health advocate myself,
Yes.
there are things that we still need to do to be
Right.
equipped to help people that are having a mental
Yes.
health crisis.
Yeah, and something that Diana does, she always asks us how we're doing. But I feel like when you ask us, it's not like, hey, how are you doing? It's like a genuine, like, how are you doing, you know? And I think mental health, especially in this race, is something, like, you turn on your TV, you cannot escape this election. Like, if you're feeling stressed out, you're not going to go home and escape that, sadly. But I think understanding the Latino culture, I know it's just the kindness and sweetness that our culture has, which I love, and I feel like I've been so fortunate to be and have the Latino culture be part of my life, is that God is always going to be there to help you, and that's great too, but not bottling up those feelings
Right.
of like feeling stressed out or having anxiety, and knowing that like you're a human being and those are all completely normal.
Right.
That's why I love that UNR did that, because it's like they can feel, right?
Yeah.
Like we had so many different people come to campus, right? And so,
oh my goodness, I can only imagine.
Yes.
and also a lot of students are far from their families, right? You don't have that comfort every day. So I really love that the university did that.
They really took into account
and
what
that's
everyone
great.
is
Right.
feeling.
I'm really happy that they did
So
that.
in the world of mental health, one of the things we say is what you don't feel, you don't heal, right? And so you don't process those emotions, and so they kind of stay stuck inside of you.
Yeah.
Which when you're a child and you're experiencing these big emotions that you shouldn't be, right? Because political ads aren't meant for 9-year-olds, which is why I made, the social media post and really tried to kind of get awareness, not even about me as a candidate, but about this not being appropriate for children. And it kind of slipped through the cracks. But the silver lining, as you both know, is that it kind of exposed a bigger issue, really, which is how do we talk, to the district from a technology standpoint, right? Because this isn't something like, oh, shame on, the teachers and the schools, because it really isn't that. But we just weren't aware, right? That in order for them to have access to these videos that they need to be able to see, you can't put all those permissions on, right?
Yes.
So this is a bigger
you can't,
problem.
shadow ban.
Right.
Ads.
So this is a bigger problem, which hopefully, at the end of all this, it could be one of the first things I do in saying, hey, look, Washoe County, it was addressed from an IT standpoint, and now we're moving on. So
Yeah.
But-
I think also children, they don't deserve to have that pressure, right?
No.
Or attack ads. Even sometimes I'm watching them on Hulu. These are really intense.
Yeah.
Do you think attack ads make you want to vote one way or another?
From a lot of people, I'm just speaking from my friend group, people in my class that we've talked about this, I would say 100%. It honestly makes me not want to vote for that person, because I think you should just be focused on what you are running for. I don't think putting down another person is necessarily going to make you look better. Because at the end of the day, just speaking from recall or recognition, I'm going to remember that candidate and be like, hey, let me fact check. Is what they're saying true about that candidate?
Right.
And I might discover that I actually really like that candidate over the one, the attack ad that's being played on them.
Right. And I guess I should ask a better question about attack ads, because there are some attack ads that attack the morality or the integrity of a person, and then there's attack ads that highlight how maybe a candidate voted or a politician voted, or what initiatives they're bringing to the table. So what do you think works? What makes you say this is the person?
Right. Do you want to go first?
I don't think I have anything. I don't really.
Not as an example, but for you, Michelle, the person, what como que te llega? What hits you here to say, this is what I need to make a decision?
I don't know. That one's hard. I feel like who I am as a person, any sort of discrimination towards Latinos, Latinas, our rights, that makes it a little more difficult.
Right.
But again, with the fact checking, if someone's doing an attack ad on someone, you're going to remember the name of the person that was attacked. And like Danny said, we will fact check and check if what is being said is true or not. But that one's difficult.
Maybe that's something you can
that's something to think about.
I would say something that doesn't work is attacking who someone's voted for prior.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Again, goes back to the same thing. It's it's your own right. It's not anybody else's place to tell you who to vote for. Attacking somebody as a person, as much as you have these parasocial relationships with politicians and candidates, it comes down to what they do, what laws they're going to pass, how they're going to help you, actually every day. If that's with groceries, taxes, just things that actually affect you. I think an effective, attack ad in my eyes would be one that's clever, is not just flat out defamation, straight up attacking the other person or their beliefs, right, necessarily. But it's more if they can put up a good argument that person isn't gonna actually go and pass certain laws or doesn't have the ability to go and do so, then I guess fair. But even then, it's they're doing that with an intention of taking somebody down. So you have to take them with a grain of salt.
Right. Yeah.
And not trust everything that you hear, because it's media. So.
It is. So we're running out of time, but what do you think on a national, federal level, what are the top 3 issues that you're going to take into consideration when you decide to vote?
For me, the economy, huge. Just because I've graduated, right? Stepping in. I want to be able to get a house, hopefully soon. Please rent. Be a little nicer. I would say my rights as a woman.
I was gonna add on to that. I was gonna say, Danny, wait, let me talk.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
I knew it was gonna. I was
Spicy.
I knew that was gonna come up, but I wanted to bring it up too, because like I agree. My rights, totally, and the housing. But last one, three top.
See, quite difficult.
Yeah.
Those two are the ones that
Those two
go through my head the most, and then.
What do you mean about when you say your rights as a woman? Like, what does that mean?
Like, the question number 6 has been coming up a lot with the abortion. But what people don't finish reading, and I didn't even know, was when you talked to me about this, when a 12-year-old or like a 12-year-old and under could get an abortion. Anyone under 16 without parent consent. But not only that, but the medical provider like doesn't have to be a professional medical, like they state, what's the word they state, they just say
healthcare provider, I believe is
it's just healthcare provider,
which I did not know about that. And that question came up also with that guy at the grocery store, and he was like, well, what do you think about that? And I was like, well, you know, I wasn't sure about the question until like it got brought up, like us communicating. But it makes it, I was like, myself as a woman who can have kids in the future, I would want my kids to tell me. I would want to know what is going on
for safety
for safety. And we talked about this yesterday. Anyone is always going to go to the cheapest option, but is that the safest? Is it truly like the best thing for us?
And also like just safety for women. I mean, like we have children, we go through a lot of things, a lot of changes. So I think for me, it's more just that women are being heard and not put down, and that people actually understand like our health, and that I want, at the end of the day, like I just want women, I can fully give them the right, they can do whatever they please, but just in a healthy and safe way, because their lives also like matter in that sense. And so I think that's important. And I think my third would be anything that has to do with like international affairs, just to keep the safety of our country. Kind of a little last one.
Threw me for a loop, not in the top 3 in the data.
One that a lot of people in our age group talk about, because I think it's like on TikTok. It's like always like, it's like that movie that everyone thought the world was going to end in like 2012.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing on TikTok. It happens a lot. People are like, oh my God, war. So yeah, just keeping peace and finding someone that also helps everybody around us as well too.
So you mean like the Third World War, like the whole?
Yeah, because that's like a really big fear right now on
that's
TikTok.
scary.
A lot of like candidates are like running with that, like on those platforms, right? Because it's a fear, right?
It is.
So.
But so is climate change. And I don't hear a lot of people talking about that. It came up in a conversation with my friends. She's like, oh, climate change is very important. And some people like think it's true and some people don't. And it's like something to look at. Like our world is like so important. And like the climate change is real. It's a real thing, and like we need to take action.
Right.
Oh, wow, that was such a good one. I'm gonna add that one to mine. So 4.
So the top 3, according to Unidos, again, is let's see here, inflation, the economy, cost of living, jobs in the economy, and healthcare. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, when I said economy, I put like all those in the same.
In number 1.
But see, those are all issues that affect you as a person, right?
And especially young people. Those were the ones for young people. Well, we're trying to stay at an hour, so we can keep going. But what else can you say to young people? Maybe for you, Michelle, first-time voters. You know, like talk to them if they're on the fence or they're scared or they have maybe a family system that wants them to vote a certain way, but they want to vote another way. What would you tell them?
Well, it's up to you. You know, the vote is yours, and you don't have to tell anyone what you're voting for. just vote for what you feel is best. I mean, there's no such thing as a selfish vote, because I've heard that like going around, but goes up. It's up to you, honestly. Like, just lean towards whatever you think is best.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't let the how like heated the election is right now sway you away from not getting to like use the power, right, that you have to make a change. And I say best thing, if you wake up one day and you decide that you want to go vote, go do that. Go exercise it.
Yes.
I think it's important for everybody to at least vote once, just to understand how it feels and how it feels like as a citizen of the country. But I say, like, go in. When you're there and you're voting, or if you're voting at home, try not to let all of the outside noise just ring, obviously get in your head, like when you're going to vote. But make a clear decision on what you think, things that are going to affect you, things that you would like to see change. Put the party aside, put the person and the way that they are aside, the way that you feel towards that candidate and that party. Think about the laws that are going to affect you, your family, your future, and vote with that. Don't, again, like we were talking about, remember that it's you at the end of the day, and you get to make that final decision, and that's special, that only you get to do that. It's your name on it. It's what you choose.
Yeah.
So,
and please vote. Like, I know, like, people, they're like, oh no, I'm not voting because I'm so stressed, or like, I don't know who to vote for. Just please vote. Like, no matter how hard
also,
it is.
Remember, like, if you don't want to vote, I had this girl come to me. She's like, well, I don't want to vote for either person. I don't think that's okay. There's a part where you can just click, like, or just whatever, write in, like, you don't have to do either one. But if you would like to also participate at like the state and local level, and that's something that interests you more, still go out and vote, because you can still do that. Don't let the huge, the national affect you locally.
Well, and I'll just chime in here and say that I still think that the state and local races are just that much more important, because those are the people that really can affect your life very quickly, right?
Yeah.
Because we can make change.
Right.
But of course, with my race, right, trying to keep it a balance of power. So hopefully, that I could have a seat at the table as a Latina.
And representing.
Yes,
right?
I love that,
People, I feel like, oftentimes forget that. Like, you are a Latina. And so, like, you understand, the culture, the hardships of that a family goes through.
It's nice to have someone
represent. I'm excited. We haven't had anyone in the North.
Right, yes. So I'm excited. And I'm excited to see, like, how everything plays out. And at the end of the day, things will go the way that they go, right? For a reason. So you can only hope for the best.
Well, thank you, ladies, for being here. I love everything that you've said. I think my takeaways with this is, don't let a party kind of pigeonhole you. I think your generation and your age group is going to start a movement that is needed, I believe. And so continue to kind of push back a little bit and tell, the politicians and the ones that have been there a long time, like, no, this is what we want. We want transparency. We want, authenticity, right? Yes. And these are the ways that you can connect with us young people. So it's your world.
I know.
I'm just living in it. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much, and I'm actually very inspired by both of you. I know James is as well. You guys are going to have a very bright future ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your kindness and patience.
Thanks for always having us. This is so exciting.
This was so fun. We had it great, and thanks also for like just letting us like have these conversations that are so hard, right? People don't want to have, but at the end of the day, remember, it's your choice, it's your vote, and still vote, even if you're a little bit stressed out. Still do it.
Yes.
Thank you.